Our next is a panel discussion. We got more experts to come here and talk about something we all need. We don't learn this in school. Why not? Everyone needs it. It's called negotiation. Anyone learn it in school? No? Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to find some strategies up on stage today. It's about achieving win-win pricing agreements, which we're all in sales, whether you like it or not. I like to call it service because if you look at it from a service glasses, you just tend to do it a little bit better. But we got to negotiate. We got to give a proposal, a quote, and we got to find an agreement with another party so that you can get paid. So our panelists will share actionable strategies to achieve these outcomes for both sides. There is negotiation. It's all about fostering trust and building long-term partnerships and relationships. So let's discover how to approach these negotiations with confidence because it sometimes could be scary and ensure every deal creates value for everybody. What do you say? Let's invite them up. First, we're going to have our lovely moderator, Tish Hodge. She's coming back up to moderate this session. PHR MSHRM. I think it's short for mushroom. Is that what it is? No? Oh, there's a big one. She's going to tell me when she gets up here because it looked like mushroom and I love mushrooms. But anyway, it's not a mushroom. Come on up, girl. Founder and CEO of the Shine Institute. She's shining. I'm going to also invite our panelists. So Gary Young, CEO of Avella Global and Go Dome. I also have Andrea Stefano Dancini, CEO Movier Servizi SPA. Navin Jaitley, the CEO of Navin Jaitley Coaching Limited. Mazroor Haq, partner at Kaz Consulting. And Dr. Suthasini Suvisa. I know I'm going to be corrected there, but I gave it a good shot. So he is CEO, Happy 3 Creation Company Limited. So thank you very much for your patience with my grammar here. We got a lot of the world here together. There's the American pronunciation. Thank you so much for being here. You got the last one? Okay, everyone test your microphone and you're ready to rock and roll. Have a great discussion.
All aboard.
All right.
Let's hit it. So we are here discussing negotiation strategies, achieving win-win pricing agreements. We've met this morning with the first panel, Tish Hodge, founder and CEO of the Shine Institute, and we'll go with one-liners for our introductions and then we'll dive in.
Hi everyone. So I'm Navin Jaitley. I'm the CEO of Navin Jaitley Coaching Limited, and we provide business development, communication, and high-performance mindset coaching, consulting, and training to companies all over the world.
I'm Gary Young, CEO of Avella Global, and we do product development and product sourcing throughout Asia on behalf of our clients. We make things by the container.
Hi, I'm Andrea Danesini, CEO of Moveo Servizi. That is a robotics company that does robotics as a service in Europe and worldwide for mid-sized companies.
Hi, my name is Mashur. I'm originally a real estate investor that's mastering brand and business strategy. I'm all about alignment through authenticity, and that's kind of what my consulting's been.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Suthasini Susiva, but everyone can call me Not. It's easier for Thai people because our full name is very long. I'm the CEO of Happy 3 Creation. What we do is we do smart solution providers, what we say that. We develop software or platform that actually helping everyone to achieve and have peace, achieve their business goal. Yep.
Welcome. The first question is, what is the importance of identifying key decision makers and understanding their motivations?
Okay, so key decision makers are absolutely essential, especially when it comes to B2B selling. I've come from a sales background. We teach a lot around sales, negotiation, and business development. And what we find a lot of the time with teams, they think they're getting in there. They think they're doing well, a deal's going ahead. And actually they're speaking to someone who's not a decision maker or people who are not a decision maker. So part of your process must be very early on, identify who are the people that are going to sign that check, who are the people that are going to make that decision, make that deal happen. Because if you don't do that, you're wasting potentially a lot of time. Was that the whole question?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. The person who signs the check is the person you make the deal with. And it's important to me to set expectations up front and just be honest and transparent and ask those questions. Who makes the decision and how is your process? And, follow their process, follow their culture, be respectful, but know who's making those decisions.
Yeah, so you have to identify the right person, and it's not every time it's so simple to do, because in some business models there are transversal issues inside the projects, and so you have a great risk of wasting time identifying the correct person that make the right decision.
Understanding their motivation is your first set of negotiating, because that is your value exchange. So if you understand their motivation, then you understand what the value exchange could be.
Well, to add to that, actually, for me, for the software business, is actually to listen to them first, to actively or empathically listen to them, because most of the time, what we say is that our customer didn't actually know what they want. Because we innovate, we develop solution for them, right? We try to seek and actually create the value, mutual value for both of us. So that's the way that I'm trying to do.
That was the second question. What is active listening and how important it is in negotiations? So, but I think you've answered that one. So I'm going to go to the third. Some individuals are born fighters like Muhammad Ali. How do you handle aggressive negotiators?
I love that question. So there's a few things here. One of the things we do, we provide something called DISC personality tests. And DISC is it's a very scientific test that's put together, and it will give you the personality type. So some people are aggressive, and they tend to have a dominant personality. The key with all of this is empathy. Because I was at a panel yesterday and I said, empathy isn't sympathy. Empathy is putting yourself in their shoes and understanding them. So if you're up against a very aggressive person, it's putting yourself in their shoes and doing two things. Thinking, what is it that they want? What is going to make them tick? Because if you are able to match them on that level, they are likely to calm down. But the second thing is, you mustn't lose your respect. Because if you go into passive mode, they're going to eat you alive. If you go into aggressive mode, it's going to become a fight. So you've got to keep that balance where it's assertive, not aggressive, not passive. That is the key to dealing with aggressive people. So working out what they want, and then number two, matching them in terms of being assertive rather than aggressive or passive.
Yeah, I agree with mirroring and matching an aggressive person, but I do a lot of negotiation in China and Asia. And I tend to think that with an aggressive person, they want to be drawn out. And so you ask them questions. You say things like, gee, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And let them talk. And then you listen. But just keep drawing them out until they've said everything they could possibly say. And that sets the table.
Yes, when we find some aggressive person, normally I think we have to be assertive. And so one of the techniques that I prefer is to identify how it's necessary to be focused on the goal. So he's aggressive, but if we are calm and with a low voice, often we are able to maintain the discussion on the focus, and so the aggressive during the negotiation normally being calm and less important.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny. It's kind of like a martial arts. There's so many different ways where you can either let the aggression pass, or you can stop the aggression. You can fight the aggression. And I think it's just understanding what the ideal value recognition is. If you give somebody that's aggressive, you can give them what they want. They're not going to be aggressive anymore, right? And so there's different ways to understand how to play that battle. But I think he said it best: is just draw them out. I think they just get tired after a while.
Nah?
Yeah, I agree to that. But then the other word I add is patience. Because if we're patient and we listen to them without emotions, we not go with them. Basically, we're not aggressive and fighting with them. So we understand what actually they try to say. And we fighting them with our patience and understand them and find the trigger. What actually the value that we can offer to them and how we get what we try to do is win-win, right? So we need to find that what is the mutual value that's gonna create the win-win solutions. It's not just pricing, but it's also for the relationship that we didn't want to break it down, right?
In my world, in the HR world, I talk about meet on common ground. So the M is make time to discuss. E is to explore our differences. The other E is to encourage respect. And lastly, once we're in that respect, trying to find our common ground. And lastly, thank them for the opportunity to find a win-win. But the next question is, should a company always aim for a win-win, or in certain situations, is it okay to walk away?
Yeah, I think one of the key things here is what I always say, a key to negotiation is knowing your value, whether you're an individual or you're a company. So you have to take it by a case-by-case situation. But I always say, and I always advise my customers, if the deal isn't right, don't be afraid to walk away. Because by doing that, you're actually keeping your value high. And often, if you just drop your deal and drop your pricing, a lot of the time your customers actually will lose respect for you. So I always say, no, keep your value. Obviously, you have to look at it by each situation. And keeping your value comes from knowing your value. So one thing I always say is when customers say to me, how do we decide our pricing, for example? Yes, you look at the market and you have a kind of a barometer for what's going on. But you must always think, what value are we bringing to the client? Because when you know that value you're bringing, then you know that what your price is justified, and therefore you don't need to drop it.
Yeah, not sure what you can add to that, except value proposition is the way I phrase it. And you have to make sure that you're in sync, even before the meeting. You don't want to be in that negotiation if you don't believe that they appreciate your value proposition. So don't get into the situation in the first place. Talk about that before the meeting. If there's no agreement on your value proposition, then you don't have to worry about walking away because you just don't have the meeting.
Yeah, I believe that you have to be ready to go away in a negotiation if your value is not complete. But we believe in a deeper win-win techniques of negotiation because of in our business model, for example, we try to share some risk with the customer. So the seller accepts some risks of the volumes of the inflation of the stock for the customer, and so the customer normally accepts to give a premium price to us because of the acceptance of the condivision and the sharing of the risk between us. And this is the important part of negotiation because we have some value in sharing with them, and this allows us to have a good techniques of obtaining a premium price with this kind of negotiation.
I think confidence comes with competence. And so the more you're able to stick your ground to your values, I think that's what shows strength. And so compromise is not necessarily collaboration. And so I'm okay to walk away if necessary.
Well, answer to that is yes, we to go with win-win solutions all the time, right? But actually, as a business or providers, we try to achieve that. If not, it's okay. It's the time that is, if you have data enough, we can leverage all the data to support that decision that we say that, okay, it's not benefit to us at all, or we're going to lose it. And it's not going to be further benefit to us or anyone in this table. So we can walk away of that.
Next question is pretty juicy. How do you negotiate with someone or an organization from a different cultural background than yours?
All right, that's such a wide question. There's so much to that. But I mean, one thing, obviously, knowing about the culture, it always definitely helps. And if you have got an organization where you have people from that similar culture, it's always bring to either include them in the discussion or certainly pick their knowledge. But it goes back to actually what you said earlier. Ask them questions. Because any culture in the world, right? Arabic, Italian, Indian, Chinese, doesn't matter. You can always ask people questions. And when the other people are doing the talking, number one, you have less of a chance to offend them. But number two, you actually get to understand their world better. So one of the key things is to get to understand someone. It doesn't matter what culture is. Ask them the questions to get a better understanding and insight into what they do.
Yeah, that's a great question for me because that's my sweet spot. We negotiate on behalf of our clients with factories in Asia to get the products, and the clients have these very high expectations, and they want to squeeze the factories. And we say, okay, that's okay, but we have to earn their trust first. And then we have to negotiate with the factories. We have to say, this is the expectation of the client, and I know we can get there, but I know we need to earn your trust. So let's meet somewhere in the middle and work towards both of our goals. You have a steady client, you have steady production, and you can bring your costs down as we prove ourselves as a great client to you. And on the other side, we say, we're going to negotiate that price down over time because we're going to prove ourselves to the factory that we're honest brokers and that we're worthy of their trust. So you work it on both ends and you come together in the middle, but you do it with a plan.
Yeah, according to me, it's preparing, studying, preparing about the cultural values of the people you are to meet in the next time. So the previous week, I tried to understand everything about this, the culture of the people I met, because, for example, in China or Uzbekistan or where we have gone in the last year, it's different, for example, from Intel culture, and some values are different, and it's important to understand where is the common ground in which we can share our competences.
I think business is pretty baseline as far as the numbers have to work. But when we're talking about cultural indexes, we're talking about human beings, we're talking about people. And so going back to the questions and understanding people and understanding how to navigate the conversation and still make the business work, I think that part's easier when we're trying to actually actively listen and understand our people.
Well, for me, culture is not just nationality culture, but culture as well. When we deal with people, for Happy Tree Creation, we actually work with many different corporate and also different nationalities of the employees as well. So even though we are quite a small company and new as well, but then it's come to culture that are very, very different. Each of them actually looking for different things, like key decision makers, influencers, even though they come from the same nationalities, they have quite the same culture as we expected, but actually they're not, because their background is actually different. Then, in everything we deal with them, we need to understand them first. So understand of the basic culture differences, belief differences, then we embedded all of them. And sometimes we have to work and study before we get into or step into the table to the negotiations. So understand them first and then identify how flexibilities or scalability that we need to offer to them and prepare to adapt and changing during the table, during negotiation sessions.
So we mentioned active listening, knowing the value proposition, being patient. What are any other negotiation techniques or models that will help to maximize the results of that negotiation?
Sure. The other thing we look at a lot is something called tactical empathy, where it's a bit of a combination of all those things, but what you're doing is you're understanding people by doing things like labeling their emotions. One of the things which we talk about in sales is called the concept of sort of feel, felt, found. So if somebody says something to you, people want to be acknowledged and they want to be respected. So when you are talking to someone, if they say something that you think, hang on, you've just been explaining to me how much value you see this, and now you're talking about how our prices are too much. Always start with, I totally understand how you feel. But potentially if I was in a situation, we would feel the same way. However, you go into what we found is other clients have paid for our services and have benefited in X, Y, Z ways. So tactical empathy is acknowledging someone. It's making them feel respected, but then it's... So there's many techniques, but tactical empathy, and I could go on and speak that for a long time, but in terms of time, I can't do that. It's basically about using empathy, but in a very tactful way, so that the client feels that you understand them, and that will help you to negotiate with them.
That's wise. Well said. One of the things I think about is that negotiations is still sales. And in sales, the number one thing you should do is look for pain. If you can alleviate pain, then usually, as long as you're reasonable, the price is not the issue. So you're looking for the pain. The negotiation goes so much better if this person goes from aggressive, because an aggressive person is in pain. They turn into a pussycat if you can address the pain, and then you can build this really great relationship. And then the other thing I would say is, when you're selling, don't sell in the moment, sell the relationship and what things look like down the road. You don't want to paint blue sky, but at the same time, you want to be able to look towards 6 months, a year, 3 years, and what that relationship might look like. Because if it doesn't go well, they'll feel that there's a loss, a real loss, because, if you can talk about 3 years of what that relationship looks like and they walk away, they didn't walk away from an event, they walked away from 3 years.
Very deep.
Absolutely agree with you. You have to look for the pain of the customer. This is the most important thing, probably. And also, you have to know which is his real need. Sometimes you said before, he doesn't know exactly what he needs. He needs normally a solution, not a product, not a service, but a solution to his pain, to his problems. And so when you sell a solution and not a product or services, you have more capabilities to do a good negotiation. So I think in this complex scenario, we need to improve our offer with probably a more deep value according to the product and to the service, to give to our customer complete solution that probably are complex and are able to complete the lack of competencies or complete the lack of knowledge of our customers, to give them the right solution in the right moment at the right price.
Yeah, I think adding on to both the pain and the relationship, it's understanding what the value exchange is. So, is there a way to expand the pie before we start dividing it up? And those are really the definitions that we can start to think about early to make sure that the negotiations or the conversations actually make sense for everybody. Because then we can really identify if the value is solving their pain point, then it's very easy. But what are some other strategic collaborations that we can add to expand the pie and expand our relationship as we move forward through our experience?
Well, for me, to add to those, actually, I agree with all of you, but then I would like to add that the mindset. Before we get into negotiation, we need to prepare the mindset of us, of our team, whether what we're looking for, the goal that we like to achieve, and also what they actually want from us and how we can offer to them. And then the other thing is the data, all the data about them and also about us, what we have in hand, what they actually publish on the internet or wherever, and analyze all those to support the decisions. And then we make several alternatives. We also offer flexibilities to another parties, that they can actually, because most of my clients didn't looking for cheapest price. They're looking for values, actually. So what we can offer to them. But sometimes they already have budget, right, in their mind. But we don't know that budget. They never say it about that. But once we talk to them, we will know. And we can get that flexibilities and adapt it and then close the deal during that sessions.
Love it. Next question asks, what are traits of an excellent negotiator?
Yeah, so I think that an excellent negotiator really has 3 traits. One is what I spoke about before, they're empathetic. They understand the customer. And the second thing, they're fantastic communicators. And communication is a two-way thing. So they ask fantastic questions and then they listen. And what they actually, by doing that, they actually help some of the customer understand the situation better themselves. And then the final thing is it's a mindset thing. they know their value, right? Have you ever come across a situation where you've met someone, whether it's in a personal situation, on a date, or in a business situation, where you just thought that person really knows their value, and because of that, they were quite magnetic, and you knew that you probably couldn't get away with stuff, and in a way you respected them more? That's what you've got to do. Negotiation begins in your brain. So know your value, learn how to communicate, and become very empathetic. That makes a great negotiator.
Okay, so there's great advice up here. I hope everybody's paying attention. The only thing I can do at this point, I think down the line, is just add to some of the stuff we've already been talking about. So I'll speak the body language and understand how to read it so that you know how you're being received, so you can back up, or you can redress, or you can stop and ask questions until the body language is right. So that's as much of an art as it is a skill, and it takes experience. But just adding to what everybody's saying, and empathy is big too, but I would add body language.
I was going to add read the room entirely. So, yes, body language indeed, but sometimes you can just check the atmosphere. You know, when we opened up this morning, we didn't have half as many people, but just reading the room, what is it saying? Like you said, do I need to pull back? Do I need to just drop my trump card at this moment? Like, you just have to realize when to shift and just how to read the atmospheric pressure and how to shift. You have to know how to do that in order to be successful.
I think that a good negotiator has to be a good listener and has to know when not to say nothing. The importance of silence in a negotiation is underestimate. Sometimes words more is the word that could make the negotiation go down. And so I think the most important is stay calm, understand, listen, and stay silent when you have to stay silent.
One of the core philosophies I think about is dynamic equilibrium. Commerce is not a new thing. Negotiations is not a new thing. And there's different ways that we can look at how commerce is being traded, even in a natural aspect of, like, I looked at mushrooms and how fungi exchange energy and exchange resources in the soil. And so all of these different things are based on the fact that we need to create a dynamic equilibrium where everyone does actually stay happy and achieve the value that they're looking for, both in the buyer and seller side of things.
Well, to add to that, I like to add emotion intelligence, or AI, right? It's not just IQ that we can travelers develop or create anything, but we need to be patient. We need to know what and when to say things. And also we need to try to understand each other and develop or build relationship that go forward, lifelong or something like that. And the other thing is that strategic thinking. I believe everyone, as a business leader, you already use strategic thinking, right? But then when dealing with negotiation, strategic thinking is very important. And also, if you can use or employ what we call design thinking method, so we can actually collaborate with another party to develop solutions together. Then when they actually help us develop solutions, it's win, right? Win-win for both of us.
All right, so our panel would like to throw out a question to the audience. And that question is, in your experience, what was the missing puzzle piece to your negotiations and how did you succeed? Amit, I see Amit's hand right there.
Oh.
Paul Barrett. The thing that was missing was I didn't have all the facts. And to recognize that I don't have the facts and say, you know what, we need to pause this negotiation as I reevaluate it based on the new information. Then came back to the table. They appreciated the fact that I was honest, and I was able to then proceed with success.
That's excellent. Honesty is, You have to have that because it's going to bite you in the butt at the end of the day.
You close the
Any-
deal? Close the deal. All right, good. As long as it closed. What else we got?
So one thing, I don't know if I missed it, but be authentic. And I think that is really interesting for me because we are in a level where people can see through your crap very easily. If you can be authentic and really look into the eyes and have that conversation, I feel that goes a long way for me at least.
Absolutely. We concur.
Good addition.
And do me a favor, introduce yourself if I haven't met you before. I want to know who you are.
So hi, my name is Sarthak. I'm a student at the University of Manchester, but I'm also involved in the family business, which is textiles and garments manufacturing. So in negotiation, I've personally learned two things. The first one is again reading the room, where you understand what kind of a listener the other person is. So it's either logos or pathos. If the person's educated and responds to logic, that's what you use. But if the person's emotional, you use emotional sort of negotiations or arguments for that person. And the second thing that's helped me personally is always listening more than speaking, because you never know how much the other person knows. So try to understand how much the other person knows and then give your input so as to know the full picture before giving your own output or inputs. Yeah.
Thank you so much for participating. We have 1 minute and 32 seconds for any questions.
Anybody else? I love that part where you said, listen more. The question is, what questions are you asking to understand the person that you're sitting with and what they need? So if you're trying to sell me water, you gotta say, are you thirsty? Right? Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rena Lyons, owner of REBX3 Consulting. You mentioned emotional intelligence. Can you elaborate a little bit more for me on how emotional intelligence plays a role in negotiations?
Of course. Well, for me, emotional intelligence is like it's the when and what we know that when we should use which emotions to compare to counter with the other part. Sometimes we find out that they are very aggressive, but there is something underlying of when they're aggressive, the word they say, or the fact that they actually try to do something to prevent or protect something. We try to seek that information and we can control our emotion as well. Otherwise, we go with them as fighting and it's breakdown, right? But if we are going to looking for win-win solutions, we need to understand them first and control us. And then also try to control their emotion as well, calm them down and things like that. So that's what I mean about emotional intelligence.
Thank you so much. 1-0, perfectly timed.
We're
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
We're awesome.